Hi, and welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and this is the very last episode of 2020, which is so hard to believe, but very excited, and we have a really great group of guests who are going to be chatting with us today about a whole bunch of things that affects the city. Our first guest up is Lisa, and Lisa, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, so I'm going to have you correct me in a second and say it the right way so I don't destroy it, who's the Director of Child Nutrition Services at the school system and has worked incredibly hard for many, many months now doing all kinds of things. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. And it's Toumayan.
Thank you. I never would have gotten it right. So despite the fact that I host the show, I am like name challenged. I do not do a good job. So thank you for your patience. I wanted to touch base with you because, you know, your job is hard under normal circumstances of feeding, you know, hundreds and probably thousands of students every day during the school year, but you've taken on extra responsibility this year to help support our senior community in Woburn. And I want to just, you know, sort of chat for a second about all that you're doing. It's incredible a lot. I don't think many people understand what happens behind the scenes. So tell us about the meals you're putting out every day.
Well, I guess we can start back in March when the whole pandemic started. From March to August, we served closely about 40,000 meals to the city of Woburn. Basically, we had buses that were taking us out. We had 3 buses rolling at the same time. And at the same time, we'd be at locations that the people knew we'd be at. So we would have the same people just about. We would get some calls later in the, you know, some are dropping off, some were coming in. But for the most part, it was very busy and it was all coming out of the high school. So for that, currently we have all the schools back open. So now we're doing about 3,200 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, all free, as you know, until the end of the year, which is helping a lot. So they get a breakfast and lunch regardless. Even if they don't want the breakfast, we say have it for a snack, have it for breakfast the next morning. At least they're getting a healthy meal going home every day, whether it be breakfast or lunch.
I think it's incredible. That is, and you know, I had forgotten all about the fact that for a while there, we were out sort of delivering to neighborhoods and such. So just incredible work. And working under constraints that are, you need to be safe, right? You're preparing food. You have to keep your staff safe. You have to keep the food you're preparing under good hygiene. What are some of the protective measures that you've been taking?
What we started doing was buying, which we normally would not do, is purchased bagged products, which obviously costs more, but we were also getting the free reimbursement. So we knew we could handle it that way, and we'd also utilize a lot of the commodity foods. When it comes to protection, you know, the employees, during this March through August, we had a circle of employees. We weren't allowing anyone else in that circle. Obvious reasons to keep everybody safe. We knew what each other had, what our protocol was, gloves, washing hands 6 feet apart from each other. And then when we get out on the road, we found that a lot of people were coming very close to us. So me as the protector have to say, you know, to my driver, back up a little bit, or I would tell the people, you need to do social distances, back up, we'll get everybody, but just please try to put your mask on and try our best doing it that way. But for the most part, we really kept the circle down, and the same thing we're doing currently. We try to have teams, so if one team goes down, as in the case it did in the summer, we had another team that could come in that was already aware of how we were doing things. So that's the way we kind of kept everybody safe. And we had a few occasions where, you know, we almost had to shut the kitchen down. You know, we had one that came back down with COVID, and thank goodness her mother did, but she tested negative. She went away for 2 weeks. We didn't let her back in. So we did have our ups and downs with that, where we are close and very lack of help, should I say, but we're still able to get the product out to the people that needs it the most.
And, you know, one of the things that I imagine is a highlight of the day is seeing all those kiddos, you know, coming in and out of the cafeteria and all the noise and chatter. Maybe it's the most exhausting part of the day. I don't know. But obviously, we're not having lunches like that right now. What do you miss most about the normal lunch environments at the schools?
Well, the good news, since I'm hosted out of the high school, I still get to see the kids. The bad news is for my employees that are out in the elementary, I mean, they miss these kids. One of the hardest things is that you get to learn who the kids are. So you know who the real needy are. You know who, you know, you can take them aside and say, listen, we're all in the same boat here. You know, whether you throw a couple of extra goodies in the bag for them, to take home, or you really make sure you load them up on the weekends. Those are the hard things that you have to go through. I think it was very humbling. I'll tell you, during the summer, when you would get thank you cards from the kids coming out at the bus, giving you a thank you card, you know, they have nothing, but they happen to give you a $5 Dunkin' card, just to say thank you. And I think my staff, I know, miss the kids because they don't get to see them. They're sending lunches and breakfast up to the kids. So it's very rare that they come down to the cafeteria and can see the kids.
Well, you know, this has been a lot, and you worked over the summer. The team has been working, I'm sure, through holidays and things and everything. And we are just so grateful for that. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I also want to give you the opportunity before we wrap up to just sort of recognize the other people on the team. I know the team is rather large, so I don't know if you want to necessarily name everyone, but I want to give you a chance to give them a shout out.
No, I will not name them all. We have about 40 employees in the district for food service. I think they are the unsung heroes in all of this. They are amazing day in and day out. And whether we go remote one week and hybrid the next week, they're ready to roll. And none of this could have been positive, or we could never have been able to handle what we were doing without this staff. And I tell you, I can't thank them enough for what they've come to and what they came back to. So hats off to my team.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much. Please pass along our gratitude to the team. It's incredibly important work. I think this last few months has taught a lot of us things we took for granted, like folks who are doing food service, grocery shop workers, people who are delivering our mail, lots of things that we see every day and got used to having and maybe got a little less appreciative than we should have been, have really come to the surface. And this is definitely one of those areas, not only serving our students, but also helping our senior residents and making sure that they have nutritious food available to them as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful for your work and your team's work.
Well, you're very welcome. And thank you for allowing me to thank my staff in a forum like this. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And have a great holiday.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And I hope you could take a couple days off this holiday season somewhere along the way.
We'll try.
I know. Well, next up, I want to invite Scott Galvin, our mayor, to the conversation. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, yeah, Samantha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to have you here. Before we do anything else, I just want to give a great big shout out to the DPW water department. I had a water pressure issue in my home that they came and diagnosed last week, which, by the way, I didn't even know was a thing our water department did. And we're so grateful to find out. And they fixed it this morning, and I can shower, and someone can, brush their teeth and flush the toilet, and I'm not left with no water anymore. So
I'll let them know too. Yeah. They do a good job.
They were really excellent. And, my own personal thing is that I was just really appreciative. They were masked, they were friendly, they were on time, they were so courteous. They really did do a great job. And I think that I know I'm really appreciative of it when things like this come up. So
good.
Wanted to recognize that. Let's dig in though. Probably what's on a lot of people's minds based on this weekend and in things that notes from folks. We had a shooting this weekend. And the police acted immediately. And I mostly wanted to just touch base with you because I think there's been a little bit of confusion. There has been a statement made by the police department that we had arrested 2 suspects. At one point over the weekend, the patch had reported 4 suspects. And I just didn't know if there's anything you can comment on. Was that just an error in reporting, or are there additional people that we're looking for?
No, I can't report on anything different than what's out there, but there are 2 suspects. 2 suspects were arraigned this morning. And, it was a terrible incident. It's unfortunately that Jake and Joe's, which is, no fault of their own. They're in that location that's convenient to 93 and 95. And, you have sometimes some bad actors from different cities that you can't control. And, unfortunately, there was a death, and there, 3 people involved, and none of them were from Woburn, but it doesn't make it any less tragic for the person who was shot. I do want to, as you gave a nice shout out, I'd like to make sure I recognize the work of the police department, who really go above and beyond every day in what they do, and they did some great work that night in the neighborhood, and also apprehending suspects. So they did a great job, and I want to thank them. Also, Chief Kenton, the work that his fire department did responding was, a pretty tough scene to respond to, and they performed magnificently. So public safety, public works, you can't say enough about the three. You had a great experience with the water department, and the police and the fire really stepped up and showed why it's so important to have a well-trained professional police and fire department. So there's that. Thank you to them.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. I think everyone is very grateful for their ability to respond, and glad to see that we had teams responding so quickly, and people staying out of the way and letting those folks do their job, which is so important. So let's talk a little bit about COVID testing. So we had testing again on Saturday. We got most of the way before the weather turned.
We did, and the testing was a little bit frustrating for everybody. We did every week we try to tweak it, and sometimes it's like we should just leave well enough alone, but we did a pre-registration and thinking that would help move things. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties in the field, and some people had, waits that, in other cities and towns would be typical, because if you look around, the waits at they're really long waits, but it was, for me, it was a little, it's a great service we're providing, but we want to make sure that, we avoid unnecessarily additional waits, because, people should expect hour and a half, sometimes two hours, maybe in that range, depending, but, we had the pre-registration and we really thought it would help. But like I said, there was a problem with the data processing in the field. So we're going to strive to do better again this week. We're offering, this is our fifth one. We've tested so far, close to over 2,000 people, which is a great service. On the city side, we're offering it to our employees, which has really gone over well. And we, have over 200 every Friday. So it's been a great service. This weekend, we're gonna get the pre-registration done better than last week.
Great. Well, hey, we learn every time. We learn every week something new. So that's great.
This isn't our regular job, so.
This wasn't what our plan, right?
Not part of the job description, but we've adapted, and we've got some really great volunteers, and Armstrong is, working through it. So we just ask people that, have patience, and, it's a great service, and we're going to keep striving to do better with it.
Yeah. And, I think it's probably worth pointing out, it's not really even in this normal protocol for the ambulance services doing this, right? So this level of testing and the kind of thing that we're doing outdoors, we don't traditionally do this. So even those who are in the medical profession are strained and working through processes, which we appreciate. I had a number of people reach out and ask me if there's an opportunity to do this in a covered location. So, in a parking garage or in a hotel lobby, so that if there's inclement weather as we're getting later in the winter and expect more of it, we can continue. Has there been any discussions on that front?
There has, and we're hoping that the CARES funds that we get that allow us to do this are extended by Congress. That's a really important thing for Congress to act, and we're actually looking at maybe doing an indoor walkthrough similar to we offer for the employees, and we might have to limit it or do it on a couple different nights. So, to get, like I said, They do a great job at the schools over a 4-hour period, doing over 200 people. So we're looking at that and looking at an indoor facility, because outdoors will be almost not impossible. It'll be very difficult and uncomfortable. So we are definitely looking at that. Most important thing is to get the funding extended by Congress, and then we'll look at alternative sites like you had suggested.
Okay. So who do we bug? Rich Haggerty, or is it federal level funding?
No, it would be, and they're on our side. I would say,
I agree.
Talk to Elizabeth Warren, Senator Markey, also Catherine Clark. Those are the three that have really been working hard for us. But I think if you ring their bell, they'll certainly let you know how they feel about it.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate that. And for right now, we have enough money. I know you said through the end of December, I think. Is that correct? Well, at that point, do we need more funding to continue, or do we have some that we'll be able to likely use?
We do have some that we'll be able to use, but, we're hoping that they add to that stimulus funding for cities and towns and states. But, we do have money that I would commit to doing more testing if they allow us to extend it.
Okay, great. One last question for you, Scott. I have had a number of people who, first of all, have been super grateful for the work the Board of Health is doing. A lot of the kinks in the testing system and the results, the Board of Health takes those phone calls. They've been responsive to people and, trying to help support them. There's been a few folks who have asking if the Board of Health will be more visible to the community directly in any way, other, their day-to-day work, obviously, but, and you've been kind enough to give updates, but there was folks wondering if there was anyone who might, be more visible and directly and communicate directly to the community.
Well, we do have, I could arrange for that, to have somebody come on your show and answer questions and that. The website, they're updating. They have fallen a little bit behind because the cases have gone up. I do know we've got two ones that you and I talk about. It's the case count and the age and gender. Those are a little bit behind. So they do have to pick up on them, but the caseload has increased significantly. But I'd be happy to have somebody come on every other week with you, or
yeah, I think this show aside, I think I think people want to recognize their hard work and be grateful for them, and they do have lots of questions they recognize that they're probably best able to answer, and we also know they're very, very busy. So without a doubt. Do we have any numbers from, I know it's a little early, on the latest testing and our positivity rates or case counts or anything that you would like to share?
Well, the testing, we had about 425 tests for about 425 tests for the residents. There were 17 that were positive. There were like 3 or 4 others that were positive, but they were duplicates, so we don't count those. Okay. So we did pretty well as far as the positivity on that. 17 out of 425 was under 4%, which is good. Better, not, in these times it's good, but yeah. And also on the city employees, we had just about 200 tests, and I think there were 6 positive. So they're running right around the same. So I think the numbers were, from our perspective, pretty good.
Okay. And is that about the same as we're seeing general testing? So not everybody tests through those mechanisms. The Board of Health also gets reporting.
No, citywide, that positivity jumped up. We're up around 7%, which was a pretty sizable jump from 5%. So it's spreading in the community. People getting tested there's more likely they're becoming positive, and I think you can't bump into a family that that someone in the family doesn't have it. I think you can say the same thing, Samantha, because it seems like everybody I talk to, there's a family member that somewhere has it.
I think, unfortunately, many of us do. Both of my in-laws, unfortunately, have just been diagnosed with COVID. Yesterday, we found out. They don't live in Woburn. They're in a nursing home in New Hampshire, but certainly many of us have it close to home, and many people recovering and doing well. And right. But I have been watching. I think hospitalization rates are increasing in the community overall. Any concerns from the local hospitals about capacity or anything? They seem pretty on top of it.
They're on top of it. Winchester and Leahy are really good. They're on top of it, but they are getting much more concerned about the daily numbers they're seeing. So we get reports once a week from them, and I know Deputy gets them too, but it's getting there, and we just have to continue to be more vigilant and do the right things. The vaccines out there. I know my daughter, who's a nurse, is getting vaccinated this week. So they're doing it in front line. The deputy, the chief can talk to you. Chief Kenton can talk to you more about that, about some of the things coming forward. But we're in an exciting period, but we're also in a very challenging period. So we got to keep moving and keep being vigilant.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add? And then I'm going to invite Chief Kenton to come on.
No, but it's like I said, I'm happy to have Chief Kenton on. He's been with us. He's been with the fire department for quite some time. He's really experienced, great leader, and he's going to do great things over the next 6 years until he gets forced into retirement too.
We're not going to start letting you do the countdown yet, though, Chief. Welcome on board. We're glad to have you. Thank you, Scott.
See you later, Tyler.
Great. For those of you who are watching, Tyler is going to be joining us from the Woburn Chamber of Commerce, and we'll talk about that change and what that means in just a moment. Welcome, Chief. We're so excited to have you on board.
Hi, Samantha. Thanks for having me.
So I'm assuming by now you've adjusted the chair and it's now set for you. It's the right height and such, right?
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Good. Well, I appreciate it. We're very glad to have you here. I know the community cares a lot about the work that the fire department does and things like responding to the shootings and helping keep us safe. And one of the questions that have been coming in quite a lot is, how and if we're going to, give vaccines to our first responders on the fire department and stuff. Maybe you can give us an update about schedules and what you might have heard about when that might be coming.
Yeah, so we're going to be part of phase one, which they say December through February. Right now, we're waiting. I think it's imminent. Maybe within a week or two, they'll roll it out for us. So we're looking
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. I did hear, and I don't know if it's true or how true. I imagine there's a kernel that there have been a few people in the fire department who have unfortunately tested positive. Is that true, or is that just a rumor that's been circulating?
Very true. We're managing COVID every day. Each individual is different, and some are quarantined, some are isolating, but they do their 10 or their 14, and then we move on. And then when the next person gets it, we lay out a plan for them. Yeah, it's happening in our department everywhere.
Yeah, I imagine it's really hard. You guys are on the front line of treating patients and transporting patients, but also in closed, you're in quarters together, you're in trucks together, you're fighting fires together, you're doing all of these things. So we thank you for the hard work. I'm glad to hear that the vaccine is hopefully imminent to the team. I know it takes 2 dosage to get to full protection. But glad to hear that will hopefully be there. You'll have to keep us posted on that. Before I let you go, first of all, I want to congratulate you or say I'm sorry. I'm not sure which it is on becoming chief. I know there's probably days where you feel happy and days where you're like, oh my goodness, why did I take this on? But we're glad that you did, and super, super happy to have you here. I also know that the holidays are a time where there could be increases in injuries and kitchen fires and things. Anything that you'd like us as a community to keep in mind as we're huddling together and trying to make merry?
Well, you got to be vigilant at all times. You got to make sure your smoke detectors are working and your batteries are good, and you take precautions around the stove, and make sure if you store your Tupperware in your stove, you pull it out before you put the turkey in.
It's funny that you should mention that. One of the things I vividly remember about my grandmother is napkins were always stored in the stove. And I'm not sure why that was thought of as a good idea, but napkins were always stored in the stove. So
follow directions when you're going to clean your oven.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's great. I love it. Well, please, congratulations on the new position, and please thank the team for us, and hoping everyone who has been tested positive is feeling well and on their way to recovery. And keep us posted on the vaccine and when that gets distributed to the team.
Will do. Thank you very much, Samantha.
Excellent. Well, Happy New Year. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tyler. Bye-bye. Tyler, welcome.
Hello, Samantha. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So Tyler Gates is the president of the Woburn Chamber of Commerce. And for those of you who haven't been paying attention, that is a new name. We had been the Woburn Business Association. Tyler, tell us a little bit about what that change means and why it's so important.
So the Woburn Business Association, for anyone that isn't aware or doesn't know, has been around for a little over 35 years. And the change has been a few years in the making. And really the change is kind of a culmination of a few things, but really first and foremost, our mission has expanded really dramatically. I'd say over the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've gone from just being a business association to being really civic and community focused as well. I think the two go hand in hand. And so really the name change is just supposed to bring that to light.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the things that has been really hard, a lot of the businesses that you help serve and we as a community serve some have increased demand for their product or service right now, but many are struggling. This is a really tough time for hospitality businesses, for restaurants, for businesses that serve those organizations. What are some of the things the Woburn Chamber of Commerce is doing to help support those businesses right now?
That's a fantastic question because you're exactly right. It's a hard time for a lot of businesses. We've seen more so over the last 6 months, people reaching out from restaurants, the restaurant industry. We have a lot of hotels and places to stay here, being at the corner of 95, 93. It's been tough. So what we did early on, we're all scrambling, but what we did was we put together some informational programs around the PPP, again, around the EDIL, just really around anything that we could get information on in real time. We did our best to simplify it and just get it out to our membership. We actually had about 25 people on a call, and I think we maxed out that first call about the PPP. And so we recorded it, sent it out, and that really was a hot topic for our members. Above and beyond that, it's been hard to, I'd say, individually support each business. But what we're doing is we're trying to, shout out them on Facebook, in the paper, take photos for anyone that's still open. And we've been sending out information of who is open, what changes have occurred, if any, and how do we find them or best find them. So it's what we've been able to do. I wish we could do more. We're trying to do as much as we can. If you have any suggestions, we're all ears, that's for sure.
Tyler, I always have a million suggestions.
I'll listen. I really will.
You always do. You always do. I give you credit. For those who are watching who may not be familiar with an acronym, the PPP is the Payment Protection Program. It was a federally funded loan program for small businesses, initiated at the beginning of the lockdown procedures. And the reason I think that's so important was just it was a lot of paperwork and a lot of confusion, and businesses had to scramble very quickly to take advantage of it because it was a limited amount of funding that did run out once, came back again, and ran out again. And so the role the Woburn Chamber of Commerce plays in helping educate our community about that program are critical and will be for future things that might be coming with additional stimulus packages and things like that.
The one thing that really surprised me was how many small businesses, like real small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, 2, 3, 4-person shops, felt like that was the kind of clientele that we served the most, I think, through this. We had a lot of people engaging in questions, introducing themselves to banks, whether they had a extending or a withstanding relationship or not. So there's a lot of cool things happening behind the scenes too, that I think came from our efforts.
That's great. I think it's really important. I also want to just, sort of take a moment to say that we were talking before we started recording about one of the things that we could do. So we might not be able to sit in restaurants. Some people are comfortable with it. Some people are not. There's different restrictions, but there are things we can do. We can buy gift certificates. We can do takeout and delivery for restaurants. For hotels, you can buy gift certificates and things to help support those businesses so they can stay up and running. Now, it's easy to think of things to do for food services businesses because we eat, and those are their gifts. But we have businesses that do all kinds of things in our city, and so share their Facebook profiles, like their pages, leave reviews if you've used them before. Landscaping service, like everything, right, is just helping spread the word about what they do in these challenging times. Is there anything else that all of us can do that you want us to be thinking about to help support them?
I think you hit it perfectly. I was talking to a business owner, a member of ours. I'm sure he's comfortable with us sharing it. So Greg from Experamax, he owns a local shop, use tablets, iPhones, and software for technology purposes. Hardware. He said on Friday, like a Google review, if you've been to his shop, is like gold for him. And so thinking of things like that, what I would say is maybe not everyone's like Greg, but reach out to your favorite coffee shop, reach out to your favorite, dance studio and say, hey, how can I best support you? Even if it isn't, money or monetary, because I think they'll tell you very quickly. They usually know what the best revenue or referral source is, whether it's Yelp, Google, Facebook. I think that right now is the most powerful thing that we can do for pretty easy or minimal effort.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's something but we should all, do anyways, but it's a great opportunity to do that right now, in particular when businesses are striving for that and struggling through that, which we appreciate. I know that you have been running a series of virtual events through the Woburn Chamber of Commerce. Any upcoming that you'd like the community to know about?
There are a few spots still open. It's more of a niche one. It's not a big one, but we've actually recently started a book club. And the book this year or this time around is Who Moved My Cheese? And it's really a business book, but it's really designed for any change in life and embracing change versus rejecting change. So we have 2 or 3 spots left. That's the next real virtual one. We really do take a pause around the holidays. And about the 15th of January, we'll really kick back up with every other week networking, virtual meetings, and things like that.
Excellent. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Tyler, and for getting us up to speed about the name change and what that means for us as a community. Hope you have a great New Year's, and we'll maybe connect again in the new year and bring some businesses and maybe profile them and talk a little bit about what they've been up to lately.
Please, if I could make a small plug today, officially, we have updated our website to reflect the name change. So to your point, any news, any calendar events, and a lot of cool new businesses are advertising on our platform. So WoburnChamber.org. If anybody in the community is interested, I really do think there's some cool things there to see. But Samantha, thank you so much. I really do appreciate being here. First time I've been on the interview with you, and you're a great host, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Tyler. And of course, Woburn, thank you all for watching. And as always, please continue to take good care of each other.